GM. Hello, everyone. Let me just get Zancan up on stage. Actually, I think, Zancan, if you could request to be a speaker. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We apologize for the delay in the mint. It is our first time doing a decal in Tezos, but, we, of course, were glad to do so, especially to support with Zancan. We're just going to wait another minute for a few more people to join, and then we can start off. Oh, I meant to actually make Zancan a co-host, but accidentally did it wrong. But if you do feel like you can jump in now, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Is that working?
Yes, it is. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we had a few technical issues. We had a similar problem with another drop of ours a year ago, but we were able to resolve it a bit faster. But we're going to move the mint by 24 hours. So that would mean that the allow list mint moves by 24 hours and the wait list mint will be moved by 24 hours. We felt that would be better, especially to cover as many time zones as possible. But thanks for jumping up as well, Pranaya.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Very good evening or morning to some people.
GM.
Yeah, we have very diverse time zones here.
Yeah, I feel especially with the Tezos community, it could be just anecdotal from my side, but it feels much more diverse across time zones.
Definitely, for sure. Very diverse in terms of South America, Asian communities as well. Those are so far apart, it's crazy.
Yeah, I guess that's why the FX hash rotation for the time windows of mint always was appreciated by a lot of people. So Zancan, I once again do apologize for us not being able to have the mint today. But like you said, perhaps maybe it was meant to be, because I know you do like Fridays as well. So we are planning to do the mint tomorrow. And if it's okay with Zancan, we would love to have him on the spaces tomorrow as well. But we thought we could just have a quick talk with the people who did manage to join us today and had it on their calendar, just so that we could at least have something going on right now and talk about the project.
Yeah, hopefully tomorrow every problem will be fixed and we can have that live stream and see all the incoming mints. That would be a nice moment to spend together. So yeah. And indeed, in the beginning, in the first year of my presence in NFT space, I used to mint on Fridays. It was an almost weekly routine of minting a new work every Friday. So I'm always happy when a new mint happens on a Friday. So maybe, the universe had something against minting on Thursday.
It's funny, I know time feels very fast in this space, but I had total flashbacks to your early days when I would miss every Friday mint, and I'm like, why am I missing all these mints? But it suddenly just clicked in my head, and PTSD of missing all the previous Friday mints. So how do you feel with the algorithm that you've done for the decals? How does this project feel for you compared to the past ones that you've done?
It totally fits in my body of works because anyway, for all my works, I've been reusing some previous parts of the code. It's a very big framework. It grew to a big factory of generative plants. And every time I code a new effect, it enters my libraries. And this is something that I can reuse afterwards. So every new project is now mostly about the way I'm going to combine the existing code and also a small addition with each new creation. There is always new pieces of codes that are being written. So here it's not so much in the code that the novelty lies. It's more in the fact that, the concept is to reuse the Decal logo. And as soon as I jumped in the idea of making a Decal, I quickly sketched a prototype where my work basically consisted in creating a generative version of the logo. So it just took me like 1 hour to sketch something. And so the logo is generated. There is no media input in the code. And based on that, I've been trying to mix up my plant algorithm with the Decal logo. And I wanted to play with the interferences between that logo, which is flat and two-dimensional, with a work that is more in a perspective. And I wanted to blur this idea of depth and the surface, the flat surface of the screen. So, and after that, after I made this combination, then it was time to create some features and variations. And it takes a lot of tweaking to be able to get the right colors, the right composition. And it's always the kind of work you have to put out when you are creating long-form generative work, is making sure you have a very large variety of possibilities while still remaining consistent in your outputs, and making sure that every iteration is interesting, but also is part of the whole.
Was adding the Deca symbol in there causing any unexpected outputs that conflicted with the rest of the algorithm that you had to tweak around?
Well, sometimes, yeah, it was a little bit tricky. For instance, there is a variant, there is an attribute that tries to place each stripe of the logo in the perspective. And I wanted it to be like above the landscape and behind the landscape at the same time. And so it's not the graphical aspect of the logo that caused problem, but my intent to make it mixed up with the three-dimensional space. And well, it did generate some very interesting layouts and compositions. But I saw that with the very early prototype, that it was going to look different already.
Yeah, because I was wondering, compare my first thought when you saw some test outputs was thinking of like garden monoliths and how like the physical architectural structures played in with like the landscape and the vegetation. So I was curious if was it just an easy switching over from having physical, like having those kind of architectural elements to having the Deca symbol? But now that you mention it that way, and looking at the Deca symbol going in between and behind the vegetation is quite interesting.
Yeah, it was not as simple as inserting it into the garden monolith algorithm, because the garden monolith algorithm is quite simple in the way it's built. It's basically rendering each element like a flower or a blade of grass from foreground to background. It just does this. So a monolith is somehow a piece of architecture. It's just placed in the perspective, just like any other element. Here with the Decal symbol, it was not possible to consider that the stripes of the symbol were architecture elements. So it was quite different.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm glad to hear that we added a bit of complexity and got a more unique algorithm, because we know how everyone reacts towards the garden monolith. So we definitely appreciate that you had a more complex, not necessarily more complex, but a different level of complexity with the Decal symbol.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the mint, because in some of the outputs on the Deca logo, it kind of looks like the grass is growing, only particularly on the Deca logo itself, which makes it looks like a human formed garden, like a strip of garden in your own garden where you place like plants. I think that's very beautiful. Did you think of it that way as well?
Yeah, that's one of the features. There are like 4 different manners of using the Decal symbol. One of them is the one you mentioned. Another one is, like I explained, mixing up dimensions. And there is also a variation that are called abstract, which has no plant at all. And it was a very nice new feature to add this logo and see what I could do with it. I just had 2 hours sleep.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's been an intense time spent with all the teams to try to make that project work. So as I say, we have very different time zones.
Yes.
And on this project, we had to synchronize teams at Deca, myself with the script, and teams at Trilitech, based in London. So it's been a joint venture between these 3 entities, if I can say that. And well, I was pretty confident that I would be able to put out a working generative art script. But the main evolution in that project is the fact that we built somehow a generative platform on Deca, which was not the case. And there was no generative art capability on Tezos on Deca. So it was built from scratch. So that's quite an achievement. And well, we happen to have a few things that are not working ultimately and that don't seem to be under our control right now. But we are all trying to figure this out, and hopefully we'll come with a fix before tomorrow.
Yeah, we're definitely going to try, not to promise, but our goal is definitely to have it launched tomorrow, especially since it's Friday. And, for us to have our first decal on Tezos and then to have you being the person, the artist behind it, was a huge honor for us. And we definitely appreciate that you agreed to do that with us. When you mentioned that there is a possible, there will be some decals without any vegetation. Is that going to be considered the rarest ones in the outputs?
Well, the probability for them to happen is lower because, well, they look more simple in their composition. So I suspect that people will more likely appreciate the ones which have more density and which look more Zancan, if I must say, with a lot of plants everywhere. But the abstract ones are interesting as well. And I know some collectors are more appreciators of this kind of abstract work, especially coming from me, because this is indeed quite rare in my body of work. For instance, I could witness that with the Charcoal Seeds project, which was a parametric project. Every collector could choose which parameter they would set up for their mint. And I had left a possibility to remove the plants completely. The feature was called Garden Gone. And it was there. It was partly a joke, partly a way to show collectors how the algorithm worked. And it turned out that some people actually minted those pieces with no garden in it, which are really simple and quite endearing, actually. And I was really sure that nobody would actually mint those, but they did. And these are pieces that really stand out in a set. So I guess these outputs without any vegetation are interesting as well. But still, they still have a lot of complexity because there is a lot that happens in the background as well.
Yeah, I can see.
And
sorry, go ahead.
One of the challenge with the Decal logo was for me to keep it visible, because sometimes it gets really overgrown with all the vegetation, and to the point it completely hides the outlines of the logo. So I was always trying to tame the plant algorithm not to invade the screen too much.
It's funny you describe it that way, taming the vegetation from overgrowing across the output.
Yeah, it can be pretty wild.
Just like real
Yeah,
life.
I can see go ahead.
Just like plants in real life, right? It's very close to that kind of feeling where you try to prune a bush, but it keeps on growing all these ways.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like what you're saying about for the parametric outputs, when you're given a choice, like I, as a collector, I could imagine that the people who chose to do an output with garden gone probably were like, let me make a set and have the set be, include one with the garden gone, because I can't imagine. I like in my case in particular, like I would rather have both, right? Not just like one with the garden and one without the garden, like to create, like you mentioned, like to have sets where you can look at the outputs that way.
Yeah, for sure. With Charcoal Seeds, it was, I think, without the garden, it was the way you had to control your output the most, because one of the key elements in Charcoal Seeds is this line, this thread that is one single stroke. And depending on how you set it up and depending on the randomness as well, you can get some specific graphics with this line, and it suddenly becomes figurative. You can see some shapes in it. So by removing all the plants, you can get this kind of control over your drawing.
And in terms of, you had mentioned regarding the colors, and that how you were working on the palette. So did you spend a lot more time in variations on the palette this time in terms of like I was wondering if that part of the algorithm that deals with the colors and palettes, if you had mentioned that you actually did spend time on changing that part regarding the colors, because I was curious, like, do you decide on different colors based on the kind of outputs that are coming out?
Well, basically, I have a set of background colors. I'm always using the same for a good reason, by the way, because Garden Monoliths was a plottable project, and I chose some paper colors as a background, which corresponded to some of the papers that I was using in my studio to actually plot some pieces. So these were existing paper colors, and I've kept reusing them all the way. So it makes my body of work more consistent. And here for the Decal, it was meant to be a plottable project. So I kept those background colors. Here we will have the sketchbook color, which is like this yellowish, old-fashioned type of background. There is the watercolor paper, which is a slightly grayish white paper. There is the black paper and also the green one, which is rarer. One second. Sorry, I've lost the power on my laptop.
No problem, we can still hear you.
Yeah, okay. Cool. And so there is one random choice of background color and a random choice of palette. And depending on the paper color, the colors on the palette won't work that much. So you need to adjust the line colors depending on the background that is behind. So it multiplies the possibilities and the combinations. So you have to go through all the combinations and make sure that everything is correct. Also, I didn't want to get too far away from what could be achievable with a pen and paper, because at some point, some of these outputs will have to be plotted. So I need to make sure that there is no technical and visual impossibility for me to do so. And about the color, they always take a lot of time to set up, also because I'm not using a color picker. I'm entering the values by hand, like the RGB values by hand. So it's a lot of trial and errors to enter all those colors and change them so that they look beautiful. Yeah. Takes a lot of time, for sure.
Oh, that's incredible. There is a few people in Deca as well who do love to use their own plotters to plot out some of the items in their collection. So, and I'm sure there'll be people who collect the decals that will immediately try to figure out how to get the plottable version.
Yeah. So for that, I will probably have to go through my website, where there will be also every iteration will be available, and with a live rendering of their NFT and SVG export, which will be available as well. It will not be available directly from the NFT.
Got it. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So do you, I think often people try to collect sets in terms of, like you mentioned, like will you have, so you will have an output that will be like the equivalent of Garden Gone, you think, right?
Yeah.
So then that could be like if somebody wanted to so if there ends up being different, like if there's 4 palette backgrounds possibly, and then you could have possibly 4 different ones with Garden Gone, I guess that would make it more of a rarer set for somebody to be able to collect.
Yeah, there are some more rare features. There is no pink paper on this series, but there is a pink palette, which is going to be quite rare as well. And there are many more combinations that the number of iteration. So not all the combinations will be available in the set. So we will see what randomness brings us.
Is there a combination of features that you would feel sad if it was not in the 100 mints? A combination that you would really like to see, or that you loved in all the previews that you have?
I don't know for sure, but there are so many surprising combinations, and it's not just the combination of features. It's also, the hash values that could trigger very specific layout or arrangement of elements, and that could be very different than the rest, that could stand out. So it's not just the combination of features. But yeah, I would be sad if no pink palette appears, for instance. And there are also some of the composition with extra features like super flowery. So you have all those little flowers that appear. I hope there will be many of them, but I don't know. We will see.
Compared to most of your collections, is this going to be the smallest series? Like just having an output of 100? I thought that most of them are like in the 200 to 1000 range, right? Other than the long form, the long form generative one that you've done. This is a pretty smaller series, right?
There is another 100 iteration, which is the Bright Moments set, which is called Kumo no Shingo, which has 100 editions as well. Yeah. So together with the Bright Moments one, this is the smallest, indeed.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, do you have the numbers of how many collectors participated in the raffle?
Let me find out. Let me just ask internally. We had a surge in the number of people that logged in to get their profile and enter the raffle. When it was announced, we were expecting a massive spike, and we did get a spike. So we saw like a big rise the whole week that once we had announced that the raffle was going, that you were going to be the next Decal artist. But I could find out how many people did enter the raffle.
Yeah. Well, I could see that spike as well because people were subscribing to my profile, even though I've never posted anything on Deca. My bad, I'm sorry, but everyone subscribed because they had to, and it was like 800 of subscribers coming in. So I was evaluating the amount of participants to that number, something like that.
Do you remember how many you had before the announcement? How many subscribers did you have before that?
I don't think I had a lot. Probably not so much.
Yeah, now you have 970 subscribers on Deca, which is like, so they all get announced, they all get, for any new drops that you have, if you announce anything on Deca, all 970 get an email. So
yeah, that's pretty scary. That's some kind of a pressure. Like it's like mail all, the thing that you try to avoid. I will have to use that possibility someday, or maybe tomorrow to announce the drop.
Yeah, that actually is a good point, because for anybody who was expecting today, I think I will arrange the drop information through your account. So I'll handle that, just so that there's no, we try to reach out to people through Discord and Twitter, and then, with IRL commitments and work and life, I'm sure people would have missed it. So especially somebody who thought, oh no, I missed today, and they don't realize that they might have a chance tomorrow and on Saturday for the wait list. So yeah, it's just, like for me as a collector, I'm following thousands of artists, and it's just so hard to keep track. When if I want to find out that there's a project happening as opposed to what they had for breakfast, like the best way for me is to be able to get the email and actually know, okay, then I have it in the calendar that there is a particular drop, with whether or not I collect, but at least I could see, what the outputs are going to be and what the art will be. So
yeah, it's definitely a very efficient way to reach the collectors. Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad you think so. And especially, we always get worried about if, sometimes when artists lose their Twitter account or if there's an issue with Twitter of reaching their artists, and even for collectors to have another way to get in touch with the artists and collectors in the space. So
yeah, all great points. I will have to go past my hindrance and try to use that, because there are a lot of benefits, for sure.
But I totally understand what you mean by, the more when you see the number go up so high, you have another sense of sudden pressure, like unintentionally.
Yeah. well, it's good pressure.
Yeah, I think if do you have any other projects lined up after the decal that you want to share with anybody or share with the people in the space?
Well, I still have to. Well, there is an ongoing project that is called Sheltered Landscapes. So started as a RL exhibition in Italy back in September, and I've made just a couple NFTs out of them in December, and I have nice plans with it. So I'm going to continue the series. I had quite a lot of things to prepare before that. So I will keep the people updated about it, but it's an ongoing project. Yeah. So that's the only one I can speak about right now. So maybe some new announcement to make in a couple of weeks.
Oh, great. Yeah, and of course, anything that the Deca team can help you with that, we would love to. We are here to support artists, especially to cut through the noise of Twitter. So whatever we could help with that, we would love to do that.
Thanks.
Pronoya, is there anything else you would like to bring up or discuss with Zan?
Also, thank you to you and the Deca team for working on this integration. And I'm very excited that I was lucky enough to be on the minting list. So excited to share my mint tomorrow and maybe have a little chat afterwards. But yeah, I'm super happy that after the initial integration, we can have these kinds of artist mints as well. I love the Deca logo, how it's integrated into the artwork, and yeah, I'm super excited, and I'm always excited to mint a Zancan on a Friday, and especially when I'm a guaranteed mint. So let's go.
Great.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we can end the spaces. If there's anything else you want to mention, Zancan, or we could end it for now, and you could get some more sleep before your Friday's mint.
Yeah, but we have also some debugging to do. This is more important than sleeping right now, I guess. So saying that, I'm sorry that we had to delay the mint, and we've been trying the entire day and night, by the way. Fixing the issues, and this one is quite resistant, but we'll figure it out. So just want to say thank you for being here and for being patient. You've been patient for a month, and this is just another 24-hour. But I'm excited to finally launch it and watch the outputs coming and to see people happy with their mints, hopefully. So let's save some talking for tomorrow in the live stream.
Excellent, will do. And yeah, once again, thank you so much, Zancan, and thank you, Pronoya, and especially thank you to the Truly Tech team for working with us on this. And we are quite excited to see these outputs. Our first Tezos outputs, our first decal of the year. We will see you all tomorrow.
See you guys. Good night.
See you. Bye bye.